and I'm very much looking forward to this. On the right column, there are the questions that are raised, and I guess we have with us now, we have Tamara, Mons, Fortune, and Caroline. The first question on the list was from Jackie Wu, but she isn't on. So, Catherine, how do you suggest we start?
Why don't we go over to Tamara's question? It's very specific. I'm Catherine, Paul's daughter, part of the team, and Callie's over here to the left. If you want to come and say hi, Callie.
Okay, so Tamara, I had a look at your question, and I'll just repeat it for everybody, the essence of it. Or do you want to summarize it for us?
Well, it's a two-part question. First of all, I am the duckweed lady here in the United States, and my focus is to create avenues for developing countries as well as developed countries to use duckweed to remediate wastewater and produce a high-protein biomass, could be used for animal feed, bioenergy from the carbs in the plant material, and so on. So I'm looking at places like India where they may have an excess water, they obviously have excess nutrients, either on a smallholder basis of a farming family that can very, very simply grow duckweed to augment their animal feed production, up to 25% cost savings. Or the other option of a whole lot of small shareholders getting together with a big corporation. They still retain their land, but a corporation comes in with the technology to take wastewater from a nearby city that's loaded with energy and waste nutrients, convert that into duckweed, to use the duckweed and also the biomethane generation in the process, and use it for the best possible good, and you have clean water out the other end. So those are two scenarios that I would like to discuss with you and see if you have any input as to how to make this go from one community to 100,000 communities.
So let me start with a little bit of background in case people participating haven't had experience with duckweed. Duckweed is a kind of little green spots that you see growing in ponds everywhere. And it's a very high protein plant matter. And there's been a number of research studies about duckweed. There was a whole group of studies carried out by Johns Hopkins team in Bangladesh, where they actually encouraged people to build latrines over ponds. The duckweed used the poop as a source of nourishment. Then they would rake the duckweed out of the ponds and use it as a high-protein animal feed. So that's a potential for using, for cleaning up water that has fecal contaminants in it, and manure can be used as a source of nutrient for it, and then the duckweed itself can be harvested, dried, and fed to animals. My question for you, Tamra, is at what stage are you at in making this a reality? Is it a concept? Have you done a pilot project that implements the model and tests it in any country? Where are you at with your interest in using duckweed for the benefit of small farmers?
I have been in Guyana and helped teach farmers how to use it on a small shareholder setting, as growing it themselves or harvesting it wild from nutrient-rich waste streams and using it to feed their animals for up to 25% of their feed costs. And also, I'm the executive director of the International Lemna Association. We now have close to 300 members worldwide that are either passionately researching duckweed or have used it in various settings. And you mentioned the Johns Hopkins situation in Bangladesh. Paul Skillicorn was lead in that particular endeavor. He's one of our members. And so I learned a lot from him. His heart is in helping developing countries. And so I would like to see that model be extrapolated out, because we have so much wastewater around the world, and they're just dumping it in the ocean, while our groundwater sources are reducing every year. It's getting worse and worse. It's harder to find.
Well, to get a little more specific,
aquifer water.
Are you furthering a specific model of scaling this use of duckweed to reach a lot of people? What's your implementation plan? Or are you primarily an organization that helps each of its members work with duckweed?
Primarily right now it's commercialization of duckweed to bring in an awareness of its potential. But the other part is the nonprofit side of helping developing countries. We do not have a scaled up pilot at this stage.
Okay, but when you say commercialization, what do you mean? Do you have a strategy for commercializing duckweed, implementing it?
Here in the United States, I am probably the only company that actually is commercializing it. I grow it commercially for pet food applications.
So you're growing it for pet food, and what kind of volume have you reached?
This last year was my pilot, extrapolating it out. This year I expect to be producing 20 dry tons.
Okay. So let me just make a response about how I would approach this, if that would be helpful, and how I would approach reaching scale. What I described in the book was that in my 30 years experience, the most effective way of reaching scale is creating a business that is scalable and profitable. To me, the biggest opportunity is with small farmers all over the world, and they are the main people who live on less than $2 a day. So the first step for me would be to come up with a model of a commercial enterprise that could help farmers earn income, and that would earn an income from the farmers. So for example, one way of doing this is to run a pilot program with 50 farmers in, let's say, India, who are using barnyard manure or human waste as a source of duckweed, and go through all the steps about harvesting the duckweed, packaging it, and marketing it commercially as an animal feed. That would be one avenue you could pursue. If you did that, however, you'd need to go through 3 different steps. The first is a proof of concept prototype, where you define the specific customer group you want to work with. Let's say it's 1-acre farmers in eastern India. The second, and you would then build, let's say, 4 or 5 of these proof of concept ponds, and make sure that it works under the specific climate conditions in, let's say, West Bengal. You would modify the model based on your experience with 10 farmers, and then you would do a beta test with, let's say, 50 farmers, where you would not only test the technology of producing and packaging, harvesting and packaging, but you would develop a business plan. That business plan would include a type of aspirational branding, which would include an attractive package that you would sell the dried duckweed as an animal feed. You would test farmers' reaction to it. You would test the price level at which you could offer it. You would test the business assumptions about how much you would be able to produce at each farm, how much profit the farmer would make. One possibility would be to form a commercial company that contracts with farmers to produce the duckweed, and then to brand it, package it, and market and distribute it. You'd have to come up with a last mile distribution and an effective marketing program. Once you did that for 50 farmers, you'd refine your business plan, your marketing strategy, and your branding strategy. And if all of that worked and it fit, and your financial projections fit with a profitable enterprise, you would then seek funding to do a commercial rollout for a company in its initial stage. That might require several $100,000, and you would start rolling out the company in India, and then you would take what you learned and try to do it also in other countries. Does that give you an idea of how I see taking a concept, which is an important concept, and turning it into a commercial venture that could go into several countries? Let me ask you, Tamra, what your reaction is to that approach to bringing it to scale.
I like that approach. I would say that what if we looked outside the individual farmers producing this or subbing out the production and pull these farmers together, because in situations like India where everyone has a half an hectare to maybe 2 hectares max, what if we consolidated their land, united we stand, divided we fall, and let the corporation come in and do the duckweed production? The individual farmers would make a lot more money. What do you think about that business model?
Okay, so let's talk about that, and let's give people a chance to respond to any suggestions, and then let's move on because we have several questions to address, and we better do it efficiently or we'll run out of time. My experience is not good with bringing a group of farmers together. Farmers tend to be stubborn, individualistic entrepreneurs, and there's quite a bit of a transaction cost in bringing a group of farmers together into a cooperative group. But it can be done, and it has been done in many places. You just have to be realistic. My preference, based on my experience, is to go with individual farmers and make the commercial model work there. Let me invite each of you who are involved in the discussion to respond with your own ideas to what we've discussed so far.
You brought up climate testing in different environments, so I wondered if there are any, whether you anticipate any issues concerning cultivation and climate.
Duckweed production is based on available water, free nutrients, and of course you're going to need some free land. So if the farmers are able to do it on within their climate, then that's perfect. You're not going to get duckweed farmers on the top of a mountain, nor are you going to get them in the middle of a desert. So there are some limitations that way.
And my concern on the it's more a sort of comment, but my concern about working with the large organizations would be that they might try and dominate the space and take it over as an enterprise for themselves.
Good point.
It's great.
This would be patterned as a public-private partnership where the farmers are equals with the corporate people that come in. No one is seen as better than another.
This raises a question of corporations can be either can have negative impacts or positive impacts. I think what we need is a new values framework for corporations, and that's what I'm trying to build with these new corporations. Any other comments on the duckweed concept?
Yes, Mons here. Just to add to the conversation, I mean, from my experience of seeing, a few friends who are involved in working with communities, I find that again it's the same approach which works. You look at working with individuals who are working on their own farms and areas, and then when it clicks for one person, then the word of mouth spreads, and you get more people coming in. Instead of getting in right away approaching them as a group, and that's something which I also feel would be a better way to approach and crack the model and really get it going for you. Yeah, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree.
Once again, one further comment. My experience is that things don't spread of their own accord. Word of mouth does help spread things, but you need to have a very specific marketing program to help spread the word about anything that you do.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Let's move on.